Devin Pike with the Dallas International Film Festival. Again, an amazing slate of documentaries here at the festival this year. And Evolution of a Criminal, it almost doesn't seem like it should be a documentary because it's a little bit more than that. It is the story of how a young man who is worried about the finances of his family decides to rob a bank. But the story just starts there because then the young man winds up having to then go back and examine the fallout 10 years after the fact. The person who did that is our filmmaker who's here with us today. It's Darius. Thank you so much for bringing this film to the festival. An amazing, powerful flick. And first off, congratulations on an amazing film.
No, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'm curious, a lot of people who would have taken these actions as, in your own words, just a dumb kid, would have tried to get as far away from their actions as possible and move from that. You're a gifted filmmaker. You've done several shorts. And your first feature-length film is an examination of your actions and the fallout with your family, the people who were at the bank, and so forth. So I'm curious, when you made the decision to make this film, how much did you have to wrestle with it?
You know, it's one of those things where you don't realize how deep you have to go when you make the choice. When I knew that I was going to go back down to Houston, I was at NYU and I made the choice, and I was really interested in wanting to go down and meet the individuals who were inside the bank. I wanted to apologize, but also wanted to hear from them, hear their side of the story. And that's sort of like was the kernel that just got everything going. And I didn't realize at the time that it was going to be this huge emotional thing because I thought I had distance. It had been a decade, and I was like, I'm in a great space to now reflect back and to talk about this. But one thing I realized early was that, you know, time seemed to collapse, and all of those emotions, all of that, you know, just the feelings of regret and the feelings of wanting to have some type of cathartic experience, that just, you know, went out the window, and it just became this whirlwind event of a shoot and also just the experience of working on the film, trying to finish it for 7 years. It took an emotional toll. I don't regret it, but it was definitely tough.
What was the easiest portion of the process for you?
The easiest thing was just, you know, the production was smooth. It was a small team. It was, you know, my best friend and DP, Daniel Patterson. We had a B camera op, John Genius, my brother, Keon Burt, and the sound recordist was Ryan Johnson. And so just having that team around me of really close friends and family and that support system was the easiest part. Doing the interviews and also having to talk to people inside the bank was the hardest thing.
Was there someone on you obviously had a list of,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and expands obviously
Mm-hmm.
as you're flowing, well, then I have to get this person.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have difficulty getting some of the people to actually appear on camera?
I mean, the bank customers, trying to reach out to the bank customers, that was something that I had set up to be, we would do toward the end of the shoot, and I set aside, you know, like 3 weeks to try to find them and try to convince them to sit down and do an interview, and only one customer agreed. Who's in the film, Pastor Ned, and I was really just so grateful that he agreed to it because I really wanted people to not just hear my side of the story. I wanted you to watch this film and get both sides of the experience, because especially individuals who have been in trouble or are thinking about getting in trouble, a lot of times we don't see the victim's experience. We don't really see what that trauma and that emotional toll looks like, and I wanted that to be a part of this experience. I wanted that to be in the movie.
Were members of your family or friends generally supportive of this project, or were you getting pushback from them saying, just let it go?
You know, they were definitely supportive. I think at one point around 2010, I walked away from the movie for about 2 years. And you know, my mom wouldn't speak to me about it. I didn't want to hear about it. And so they allowed me to have this space to figure out if I was going to finish this thing or not. And everyone understood that this was a huge undertaking, trying to accomplish this thing and trying to get it done. But that support system of family and friends, they were the reason that the project was finished. Because, you know, even though they didn't say anything, I knew they were all hoping that I was going to pick it back up one day and get it done. That's exactly what I did.
We were speaking before we started filming, and I mentioned that it would have been not necessarily easy, but maybe a little bit more comfortable for some filmmakers to dispassionately kind of distance their own experience from the film itself, and you get the reaction from family, cohorts, the band customers themselves. But what your film does, and I think it's the bravest thing of it, is you take a very stark look at your own actions, your own motivations to it. And it couldn't have been easy to actually have that experience actually on film.
Yeah, it's also just my style of directing. But for me, I always, if I'm going to ask an actor to go out on a limb, if I'm going to ask anybody that's going to be in a project of mine to do something that may be uncomfortable, I'm going to go out with them. It's going to be a situation where they're not going to feel like they're alone. I'm going to walk that walk along with them. And so with this film, if I was going to ask my mother, if I was going to ask bank customers to get on camera and to be open and honest, then I had to set the tone. I had to be like the one that was going to be raw and open and honest. And once they saw that I was jumping in the water with them, they were like, okay, we'll go along for the ride. But as a filmmaker, it is your job to set that tone and to make it clear that this is going to be an experience, it's going to be tough, but I'm right there with you the whole time.
Obviously, you're in the edit process and you're assembling the film. You've seen it through all of its inceptions. Is it still difficult to watch it unspool in front of an audience who has no idea about what they're about to see?
I've never watched it with an audience. I've watched the first 5 minutes, the last 10 minutes, but I've never watched the whole thing. I'm still trying to get myself to go into the theater and to experience with an audience, because every time I see even a few minutes of it, I'm overwhelmed instantly with emotion, and I just have to walk out just hearing my voice, as you're seeing some of the imagery. But just even peeking my head into the theater has always been an interesting experience to just see people's expressions, because they're so into it, and I'm like, this is weird. These are complete strangers who are experiencing this thing that I made, in a little closet in New York City. But it's remarkable, and I'm going to one day watch this thing with an audience.
Well, it's a good goal.
Yeah, one of these days.
Have you had any success with talking to possibly either correctional groups or youth groups? Because I mean, in my mind, it would be an amazing thing to have this in front of kids, to be able to say, yeah, you're going to think that this is a way to go and this is a way out of your situation. Here's what happens afterwards.
Yeah. That's the process now. I'm in the process right now of talking to organizations and getting the film to, just a multitude of different nonprofits, different community centers, working with high schools, working with just juvenile justice, and just criminal justice facilities. That's the reason why I made the film. I love the whole film festival circuit. I want the film to be in theaters. I want it to go on TV, but I made the film to go to those organizations. I want to travel in prisons. I want to go to juveniles, and I want to show the film in front of prosecutors and defense attorneys, and just get the word out. Because one thing about the film, I think it also talks about compassion and forgiveness. And I think in addition to making bad mistakes, it's how do we allow individuals to change their life around and to better themselves and make a space for them to correct those mistakes.
Do you feel that the decisions and the mistakes that you made as a kid makes you a better filmmaker now?
It's hard for me to say no. I would have to say yes, because that's a part of my whole experience. And so that journey has colored everything I do, everything I touch, everything I think about. And so it's, there are a lot of regrets, but it's difficult to say, had that not happened, I would become the same filmmaker. Obviously, this film, I'm making a film about what happened. So I definitely think it impacted my career.
What are you looking at doing as future projects?
So I've been working for the last 3 years on a feature script entitled The Year of Our Lord. And it's I would call it a contemporary thriller about a young couple in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, whose 7-year-old son may or may not be the second coming of Christ. And I wanted to delve into the world of religion and the media and doubt in a very right now, dramatic, R-rated, in-your-face sort of way.
Yeah, it's the feel-good hit of the summer. I want to see that movie now.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just go ahead and make that now,
You know what?
please?
If somebody would please send me a check, I'd make it tomorrow. I'll make it tomorrow.
It's a powerful movie. Thank you again for bringing it to Dallas.
Thank you so much.
And it's great to see Tish represented, because there's 3 or 4 filmmakers here from NYU.
Yeah. My classmate Sarah Coangelo is here with Little Accidents.
Yep.
So it's great.
And Gene Pesh from the short Mr. Lamb. So trust me, get in, see this film. If you don't get a chance to see it here at the festival, check out dallasfilm.org so you can see the future of these films, because we like to keep up with our alumni after all. Darius, phenomenal job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you.